You're up, Christy.
Christy Davenport, Senior Administrative Assistant to the Bannock County Commissioners. I've been working for the last 3 months, probably on and off, on putting together a list of tax sale properties for the next tax sale, which we have set for October the 26th at 1:30 p.m. The properties that you have before you, there was a change this morning. So I go through all of the minutes all the way back to even like 91, and some of those minutes are not searchable, and so as best I could, I searched through for the tax sales, but back in the day, they wouldn't actually list some of the parcel numbers that they had the tax sale for, so they weren't very specific. But this morning, Misty gave me a list of properties that Deanna Shannon had kept track of, and so there are 4 properties on your list that have actually already been offered for tax sale, so without a bid or an offer as the outcome. So I do have a question on parcels number 7 and 8. Commissioner Moser, you have a map of those 2 parcels. They're they're like little tiny pieces of land in the back of a townhome that is basically split down the center with these 2 pieces of land. And I was wondering, since they've been offered for tax sale before but not been purchased, if I could go to the previous owner, or somebody could go to the previous, or to the owner, the current owner, sorry, and ask them if they would be interested in those 2 parcels. They're just in their backyard. And I'm not, I've asked Jeremy Messick about why they were split out that way, and he's told me that he doesn't see any problem with offering it if those people want to.
They probably already are using it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So
So
I
combine those.
yeah, I would say
They're right next to each other.
I would say, Mr. Chairman, on those 2 parcels, I would say we just go ahead and move forward and contact to see if there's interest, and if there's interest, that we just go ahead and quit claim and get rid of it and move it over.
Okay.
So for right now, that's, I guess, it's not a formal motion, but I would just say ask to move forward.
Yes.
Do you want me to read those parcel ID numbers for the minutes? Or don't worry about it?
They're okay. They're on the map.
Okay, so the rest of the parcels, as far as I can tell, there were 2 others that Misty found that had been presented at tax sale, but no bid or offer. The rest of them have not, that I can find. So anyway, is it all right with you if we go ahead and post these in the paper? You do have a notice of public hearing to sign if you decide to move forward.
So you're going to take the 2 that have already been and just put them back on, see if we can auction them off again?
Right, the other
Okay.
2, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go ahead and move forward with the tax deed sale and go ahead and notice for the public.
Got a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Perfect,
Let's
thank you.
get rid of it.
Thank you. All right, looks like Shanda.
Shannon Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst, and I've asked our coroner to join us today as we are discussing moving forward with a lease purchase for a new truck for the coroner's department. I do need to report, first off, that lease that was submitted in your packets, that truck has been taken. So that one is off the board. It was spoken for before it landed at the dealership, which is the world we live in now. That dealership did reach out to Enterprise, and they do have another one in manufacturing. It is held up waiting for a computer chip.
Imagine that.
I had asked for specific specs. I didn't know when they said they had another truck if it was exactly like this one, or if it has hopefully not as many bells and whistles. That's something more in line to what our needs are. But we are waiting to hear back from them on exactly what that is, and when those chips will be released, right, is anyone's guess.
What was the and just a question for clarification, I'm just trying to read this through. What was the annual lease payment on that?
Right?
Or the monthly, oh, it was 790.20
Yes.
total monthly.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what's the van right now?
Just over 4, I think it's 432, I believe. So it is more, they did budget more in that line item. Tori worked with Christie, so they do have funds available. That was anticipated that the truck would be more. So had this been available, they would have budgeted appropriately, which would have been great. It is, I had concerns, it has quite a few bells and whistles on it. It's just about $11,000 more than what we paid for the road and bridge trucks that we just picked up a couple months ago. However, we are running into closed doors everywhere we go.
No vehicles.
The used market is super expensive right about now. So the vehicles that we've been able to find that were used, we would never be right side up in. And while Enterprise would be more than happy to lease us those, they would not recommend it. In talking with the coroner, we've not brought any of those vehicles. We did not feel that was fiscally responsible to bring those before the board. So we've run into a closed door, a rough door in the used market. There's a couple different options that we would like to discuss with the board in moving forward. And none of them are super fantastic. One is going back to utilizing funeral homes. It is not budgeted that way. We have done it in the past, but we are at the whim of the funeral home. If and when they are available to do this work for us, we would need to shuffle budget from the lease line up to other ones. It is not what the
It's
coroner.
not an ideal situation though, because I think, as everybody can see, we're having an uptick in what we're seeing as far as business, and everybody's seeing that. And so I think that, you know, as I'm getting busier, they're getting busier, and to ask them to now, you know, do transports or anything like that on top of their regular business is just gonna put more onto them. This truck would just make us self-sufficient. It's just kind of a, what's available, you know, right now, the availability is what's killing us.
So I would say the big problem we have is running into the timeline of being able to get a truck approved for the commissioners, and by the time we get back to it, it's gone. We've had that happen like, what, 2 or 3 times now, actually, when we do, looking for Tony and others, right?
So we didn't have that experience with the sheriff's office, but we have had it before. Our biggest struggle now is finding a truck, right? They cut 1 million orders between the 3 dealerships. They're like to describe it as finding a unicorn, right? It took them months to find this one, and even this one had way more than we needed on it, but it was available, so that's why we brought it before the board. There is a couple other options.
Well,
Yeah,
we told the assessor's office, I mean, there was a lot of bells and whistles on cars that were wanted over there.
Right.
And we set a criteria. And I still think that we stay within the criteria. I don't see a reason to spend $10,000 extra on a vehicle just because.
But it impacts our service, it impacts,
Except that we still have a van right now.
Correct.
Yep.
It also exposes the person that's taking the body to Boise.
yeah.
So the reason that we're going for autopsy is because we have no idea why they died. So if they have some kind of contaminable disease or anything, you know, we're exposing that person taking them to Boise, and that's the whole point of getting rid of the van and getting into a truck, is because of the fact that we're limiting the exposure rate and we're not having to deal with,
Well, I appreciate that.
yeah.
But you're exposed anyway. I mean,
Sure,
if you're handling the body, you're exposed.
sure.
But I still am not in favor of spending $10,000 extra just because.
What do we have on the used market that's there, even though if we were just to purchase?
there isn't anything.
I don't know.
So purchase, we'd be looking at budget. We don't currently have it budgeted to spend
Okay.
$38,000, give or take, on a new truck. We have to look and potentially ask Christie to.
We could find options.
I mean, to tell you the truth, there's enough stuff that just, I had to do some running. You know, there are service trucks that would fall under the service truck that would meet our criteria, that might be a year or so old or whatever. I've seen several of them. Yes, they might be priced higher than what we normally would do, but if you're actually looking at it to where maybe it's a local dealership somewhere up the valley, who knows, that could just say, hey, yep, we have one of the white service truck general models. Hey, this is what we need. This fits in the criteria. They'll trade the van. They'll take the van and trade.
Well, that's a lease vehicle.
Or a lease vehicle. Well, they just buy the lease out, or they'd pay out the lease, or I'm sure there's a way that, I remember when Enterprise came in and talked, they talked to us about that
We can
specific.
turn it back anytime.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can turn it back.
or we
to
turn
you
it back, or
guys.
however we do that, but, you know, whatever we need to do to get that off is maybe we look and see, and, you know, maybe it's not a $38,000, maybe it's a $27,000, $25,000 used truck, maybe it's a, you know, but I think we need to have that conversation, and let's start looking. If we can't get one from the factory, which,
So Chevy is closed.
yep,
Ram and Ford are open, but their bed lengths are different than the need that we have for the corners.
well, and the other thing too is Ram and Ford, they were saying the other night on the news that they probably are going to stop manufacture models right now because of computer shortage. So I would say that we probably just start looking right now. Let's go look for, I mean, see if a lease one would pop up in the next little bit, but let's go see if we can find something. And if we do, then let's see if we can come up with a financing option or something.
We can find money for under, I mean, the dollar amounts you're talking about, we can find
Yeah,
money.
I'm sure there's some,
Because we can take the lease payment and apply that portion that's
Mhm.
unpaid, so I would keep that lease on a monthly, don't change that one.
Okay.
You had talked about changing those to annual,
Mhm.
so don't do that on this one. If there's a chance, we'll turn it back.
Right.
And then any monies left over on that lease, we can
Yeah.
just roll over towards the purchase, and then we'll just, I
Find the difference.
got some ideas.
yeah.
We
So,
would be able to put the returning the van on, there too.
and you might even have some of the new fleet vehicles that you get that are not counted into their leasing program because they're not technically new because of how they've used them or demoed them or whatever, but you might be able to find something that's went out for 6 months and came back and it has 5,000 miles on it, or it was titled once. It's basically brand new, but it's not. They won't ever find them on a lot, so. I think that we could probably, between all the car dealerships and between Pocatello, Idaho Falls, Rexburg, all that area, all the way up the valley, I think we should be able to find something.
Have we not been looking all over the valley?
So we have, but again, Enterprise would not recommend that we get into a lease option with a used vehicle because we would never be right side up in it.
We'd have to purchase
You'd
it,
have to buy it.
but we didn't put the full amount of money in. We put the lease payment into the budget, not in the,
Right, and our goal has been to not purchase anything vehicle-wise, but to
Yeah.
lease, so we can have
no.
better equipment on a regular basis with less maintenance and all that good stuff.
And I would totally say that we need to lease it, but if the problem is we can't get vehicle and product from the factory in a timely manner, then I would rather purchase something that's more close to spec and within the budget than saying, let's go lease something that's, you know,
But both options are in the budget.
yeah.
We have budgeted amount for the higher amount, correct?
We
For the-
only have a lease for $10,000, yeah.
Correct, so
Yeah.
we budgeted for that.
Yeah.
So,
But if we can't get a lease, then in this instance, we might have to deviate from
Well,
you
and,
guys wanting to do leases.
and Shanda said the truck that the dealer said they had they haven't confirmed actually what it is yet. It might be, yeah, we got another truck, but oh, we forgot to tell you, that's the off-road, you know, whatever package it is, it's a $75,000 Trail Boss. Oh, you guys, you know, and I'm just thinking of what can we come up with options so we can just get moving forward. If they come back and say, hey, we got just a fleet vehicle that's, you know, there, I mean, yeah, it was $10,000 more. What were the options? It was there. Why was it 10 grand more? Was it because the motor, the transmission, and some of that stuff? I'm okay if we exceed the spec on that because the motor, transmission, and that stuff, because that's actually something that can still be useful. I am not okay with, hey, we've got sunroofs, we've got leather packages, that's where I'm just, no, we're not doing that. If it's hey, yeah, we're supposed to have we wanted a gas motor and it's a diesel motor and those are things that I'm okay looking at for that. But for spec, if it's just leather interior and moonroof and all that other, no, that's not something that I care to go down.
Well, I'll just tell you that if it was me buying my own vehicle and it's $10,000 more, there'd have to be a good reason.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at. And because it is county dollars, I'm even more serious about it.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
And that's why I say I think if we could look we probably would have been looking in a lease and they probably wouldn't have seen them. Is there a new one? Is there something that's sitting on a lot? Is there something there that we can go take a look at? We could probably canvass fairly quickly through the dealerships. And we should be able to know probably by the end of the week. If they'll get back to you and tell you, hey, yes, this is a vehicle and this is why it is more, or this is what it is. And I would say that if it's a mechanical type stuff, I'm okay with that. Because that's always, I mean, you can never have a too small of a truck. I mean, I'm sorry, but if it comes back, it's a 2500 series instead of 1500 or a 3500. Okay, I'm okay with that.
You don't need a 3,500.
No, but that's just fun. No, we would take that truck. We'd take that truck and give it to Road and Bridge or one of those guys. And
I wondered if the motor pool could use this lovely truck. It was very fine.
yes. So
So do I understand that we're waiting to hear back from Enterprise on the one that they're waiting on that manufacturer's ship-in to see where it would land in the scope of our needs versus the price?
yeah,
As well as in tag team, looking for a used vehicle somewhere here for purchase.
I would also say that if the lease vehicle, if they do come back and they give reason is due to mechanical issues, that I would just say to give authorization to go ahead and have them hold it for us, and then we can come back and,
So they will not hold it without a signed lease.
well, let's do it this way then. As soon as possible, or actually, let me think about this for a second.
Have we looked for used vehicles already?
So we have Enterprise looked at leased vehicles.
Not they're
Yes.
using,
Have we talked to any of the local dealers?
you know.
So Tori had seen a couple.
I've seen a couple, there's a
Right.
couple out.
And I'd contact the local dealers also, and get
That's-
the word
yeah.
out.
It's
And see what they, I mean,
We can do that.
No, I saw a white 2500 series Chevy the other day that one of the dealers tried to sell me, and it just was, it was a work truck, and yeah, it just, you know, and it was bigger than what I needed. I didn't need that, but I mean, it was cheaper than this, and it was a 2020, and it had 14,000 miles on it. I mean,
Yeah,
so
there's
that,
a couple out there that they've just said for a lease, because we were looking for a lease, they said these used ones. There's one that was down on Herning's lot, it's got a tonneau cover, it's got everything that we need. But to put it in this lease program
yeah,
wouldn't be feasible for us, but if we were looking at outright purchasing, that might be a different story. So,
that's why I
there's
say,
definitely things that we can look into.
I know we want to lease vehicles, but right now, what's going on with the market and everything like that, we just take what we get, I think is where we're at. So.
Okay.
Now,
So
what I was
waiver-
saying is with the Enterprise thing, I was gonna come back and say, a motion to authorize the vehicle and the contract to be signed and ratified at a later time, but the signature would be at the chairman's discretion, and let Ernie, hey, if this is a vehicle that falls under, the chairman's authorized to go ahead and sign, and then we would ratify at the next available meeting, because then that way, if they actually have
get it done.
a legitimate vehicle that's there, that's, you know,
Concerns?
I'm okay with that.
Have a motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so we'll wait to hear back from Enterprise as well as have Tori start looking at dealerships that will fit his needs, potentially for a used vehicle.
And make sure you're in contact with Christie to make sure
Let's see if we
where
find some money.
it falls in line with money.
Sweet,
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
thank you.
Ryan?
Okay. So Ryan Belknap, HR Director. Let me pull up my notes. So, we have had, it was a few months ago, we put before you an update to our Bannock County Federal Emergency Paid Sick Leave and Expanded Family Medical Leave Act under the Families First Coronavirus Response. Okay, it was the policy regarding COVID leave. And what we had decided to do last time we had talked about this was to, we weren't going to give employees a new set of hours for admin leave for COVID purposes, but if you hadn't used them already, we were extending the deadline that would allow employees to use admin leave for helping themselves or family members with COVID, that may have COVID. And so when we did that, our discussion was, we're gonna have this policy end on September 30th, and we address it again to determine if we wanna extend it or end it. And so now it's September 30th, and it's time to have that discussion. As I mentioned in the agenda, my recommendation was to extend it again, for a few reasons. One is because we've seen COVID and variants continue to be around, right? And we've had a number of employees who have been sick with COVID or something with similar symptoms. And I believe especially some of the newer employees that haven't accrued a lot of sick leave, they would be very tempted to come to work sick. And I think people just do. If they don't have sick leave, they're gonna come to work sick and spread it, and more people are gonna get it. And so this is an option. From what I've heard from supervisors and departments I've worked with, it hasn't been abused. It's been actually a big relief and a help for our employees. And especially in a time too where we're struggling with turnover, where we can throw this out and maybe keep a couple employees that might otherwise not have leave. It just kind of helps. It's a tool for administration too to help out.
I would say that we probably just keep this on the books until December 31st. And go on. Speaking of somebody who just had the next fun variant, I mean, literally, I'm a pretty tough Army dude when it comes to this, and I can usually come to work sick, and not a big deal. It doesn't bug me, whatever. And I would not want anybody coming in and spreading the funk that I had, because it would. I mean, that was a pretty brutal thing. So I would just say that I would probably leave it on the books till the 31st of December and then revisit it there.
Actually, I was thinking 1st of April.
Okay.
I mean, that'll take us
Through the flu season.
into the spring.
Well, and what I'm afraid of too is what's happening now is they're seeing some, I have some individuals that I've worked they didn't get COVID. They've gotten some flu strains that are really nasty. And that's kind of one of the things I think is because we've had some issues with that and not knowing if it's COVID or flu or whatever's going on, that right now I'd say let's just get through this fall season, and hopefully then at the end of April we just do away with it. We don't have to worry about it then.
Do we have very many employees that still have the original 80 hours? Not new employees, but from the prior?
I don't know.
So
I think many of them have used it.
I think most all have used it.
So it's probably just more for new employees?
It is.
Or sheriff's jail people that weren't really
Sick to begin with, and then
some were allowed to, but really couldn't be gone because they had to be here.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I say, it's just especially the new people coming in, that if you did get hit with this, I don't want you coming and spreading this around.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like I say, it hasn't been abused. The
Yeah.
supervisors have managed it really well, so
Yeah.
I don't see a concern myself.
Yeah, in my original date I proposed was January 31. I was thinking originally about December, but with the holidays and
Yeah,
stuff,
that's fine.
I want to avoid that. I'm not totally set on January 31. I just wanted to get us past Christmas, and so anytime
Just
past
April
that, I'm
1st.
okay with.
That's the 1st of April. The weather's changing, it's warming up,
No joke, April 1st?
April 1st,
No
no
joke.
joke. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we extend the COVID leave policy to April 1st and authorize a new memorandum to be written and distributed.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Only for new people, that's all it's for. Tony's back there. Ah.
Christie,
Okay, first item on the agenda is we now have the county levies that I have sent to the State Tax Commission. So we need the commission to approve those, and then we will wait and do a resolution once they're certified by the state. In the past, we've done a resolution at this point, but they are subject to change if there's anything that they find that was done incorrectly. I did have on my values that I received from the State Tax Commission, there was some differences between the operating values on the urbans. And so that is still in question. It shouldn't affect anything, but I just wanted that disclaimer out there in case something does change.
How do they compare to last year's?
For most districts, they went down. There was a couple of cities that held constant. They didn't have a lot of growth. Bannock County, City of Pocatello, and City of Chubbuck were hard to gauge, just simply because of the governor's money. But I did do a comparison. We would have decreased our levy rate based on the
When will the state have this back to us?
fourth Monday in October, I believe.
Man, if we have a PIO by then, this would be a really good story to go out and then put this out of who's spending the money and where.
They may be back sooner.
Right before elections. That's a great one to put that out.
But we do have a new, so we had Gary Howden, who used to review all the levies.
Yeah.
He left. We had Archie Keaton. He only lasted a year and got promoted. So we now have a new individual whom I've not met yet.
I met him yesterday.
Was he there?
Yep, he was
Yeah.
there.
Dang it.
He was sitting
And
there.
there's actually two of them that
Yeah.
are replacing Archie because the L2 is such a disaster now.
Well,
They have both of them that are gonna help
that
on
was
that.
my next question.
I would have
Would
loved
you-
to have met them.
Would you be willing to talk just briefly about the struggles you had this year calculating L2s because of the House bill that was passed last year in regards to House
So-
Bill 389?
The first problem we ran into was not receiving the values. Well, and it's not our assessor's fault. You don't get the values until a certain time frame after BOE.
Mhm.
Once we got those numbers, then I could send out the worksheets to all the taxing districts, who a handful of them had already held their public hearing. So they had to publish pushing those off because they didn't know how much money they could take. So we had that extra little workload. We finally got everybody the spreadsheet of the allowable amounts. It's an entire change in process. Most districts are used to receiving paper copies, so for our smaller cemetery districts and some of the fire districts, they really struggled with the spreadsheet, and one, that it was different, but also how the process works, because there was multiple tabs. You start with the calculator tab, or the checklist tab, then goes to the calculator tab, which we fill in and say how much money they can take. Then you go to the L2 worksheet, which auto-populates into that tab. Then you open up the L2 form so that they can fill that out. Then if they have, the next tab is ours, where we do the levy calculation, and then you've got the capital acquisition and the voter tracker tabs. That was a struggle for them to fill out. Were you gonna-
Well, on that note, and you say it's different, and it's different, as we were talking about in the clerks group yesterday, it's not just different. That's a very kind way to put it. It is exponentially more complex. And so one of the concerns that we've had as clerks talking about the L2s, and we're very lucky in Bannock County that we have Christy who can navigate this. But the majority of counties in Idaho don't have Christy. They have someone that was willing to run, and they're the clerk, and they have to try to figure it out, and they have to reach out to people like Christy that do know how to navigate it. The increase in human error based on the new system has gone up exponentially because it is so exponentially more complex in finding how to get this number to put on this sheet. The sheet itself, the L2 itself, the data calculator spreadsheet was changed within the last 2 weeks before they were final, 10 or 15 times.
In fact, the version I got that I sent to the districts changed the Monday after I sent it out. But they said it wasn't a significant enough change to worry about.
So it's not just different, it is extremely complex, and the dates and the timelines do not work. And the human error possibility is
You don't have tarot
Forward.
cards, a Ouija board, and a set of dice. To
So anyway, sorry to interrupt, but it's
Well,
not
I
different
learned that
in that.
human error happens even when you're ironing pants.
It does happen, yeah. So anyways,
we
go ahead,
got-
Christie.
That was
We
funny.
got these all sent out. We had to deal with phone calls of, my public hearing's already passed, how much is my foregone? How do I do this resolution, which are some of the same questions, except reading the documents were a little more difficult for the districts. So we finally got all of that back in. We had to not only enter that into the spreadsheet now, which we didn't used to have to. Used to, I had paper copies, I would fill them out, I would scan them, send them on, or I would do them online, and then my part was done that way. But I had to enter the district's information into that spreadsheet, do all the calculations, plus make sure that they had the resolutions, they had the public notice. You publish your budget, it can't exceed what you ask for, so we still have to do all of that check. The state gave districts until December 31st to reserve foregone monies. We have spoken a lot within the clerks groups that that is ridiculous because levies are due, and now we have to babysit for 3 months if a district has changed their mind or is going to reserve foregone. City of Pocatello is having their hearing October 21st. So far, they're the only ones that did that to us. But you're moving on to other stuff, and in these smaller counties, how do you keep track of that? That's just ridiculous. So you gotta babysit them and make sure they get all that in. So that was kind of just, it's not been the best year, and I've done L2s for 14 years. So.
Thank you. I just wanted that.
How
on the
many,
record.
Christie, how many other counties, like other county clerks reached out to you? 2 or 3 other county clerks reached out to you for help. This is their job, and they cannot do the job because it's so complex without reaching out to somebody like Christie.
There's no resource in the state except
No.
for in the counties.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try and talk to the state, and Tim Hibbert with IAC is amazing, and he, in fact, he's the one that we used his spreadsheet for. And this is so ridiculous and stupid, but when we were doing the L2 and I had to enter everything in, you had to actually go in and protect the document on every single one so that I could go in and get the calculations to put in. I mean, it was so much more work, and that doesn't even count the web L2 that we have to enter into. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Is that the answer you were looking for, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
That's why you should take the next week off.
Well, I asked her that question based on your and my conversation yesterday about how difficult it was, and so I wanted that on the record, that how difficult it was because of the changes that were made, and so, thank you.
So, I just need the approval for the levies. I don't know if you need to do formal or just make a motion and approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the levies as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, passes unanimously.
And as soon as I hear back, we'll get that resolution done for you to sign and formally adopt them. Next item on the agenda is to discuss FY22 salaries. So as we were doing salary approval forms, it came to our attention that there are 6 employees that were still over market that we did not formally talk about giving stipends to. Traditionally, if an employee is over market, they get whatever the COLA, cost of living, or whatever that amount is in the form of a stipend to be paid out 1 to 2 times depending on the dollar amount. In the past, we've had like a 1% or 1.5%. That dollar amount is small enough we would give it as a one-time stipend. When we've done higher amounts, like a 3.5%, then we would do it in 2 different payments. We have 2 employees that with 3.5% COLA, the mark, they caught up to the scale, but not fully. So we had one individual that she was at 1757. She'll go to 1779, but a 3.5 would have been 1818. So Jason and I discussed this. wanted to bring it before you and ask you if you want to do stipends for the 4 individuals that continue to be over market, and then ask you what you would like us to do with the 2 individuals that would catch up to market but need a smaller dollar amount to get them to the full 3.5 increase. Sheriff Manu is here in support of hoping that we can do the stipends. These were not budgeted traditionally in a separate line item, but we do have monies within each A budget to cover it, and I can give you dollar amounts if you're interested. It's not significant. Within the clerk's budget, it would be $811.20. Within the sheriff's budget, it would be $1,505. Within the jail, it would be $3,541. And within the court martial budget, it would be $1,737.
But those amounts were factored into our 3.5% that we calculated overall for everything, though, correct?
No.
Well, they were not, so,
No.
so we did not
So-
budget for this $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and I ran the tape once, but I didn't attach it. And we're talking 52, 67, $7,500.
7,500.
And I guess, I thought we had said 3.5 for everyone.
Okay,
I mean, that was our original discussion.
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, then that would say to pay these people. But we would, are you good with doing that through a stipend? If we build it into their base salary, then what that does is
They're
throws
still
Put
over,
some-
them higher
put some
over.
higher over market.
I would rather do the stipend because they're gonna be working on the salary tables.
Correct, that would be my plea.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, so, but because this was not specifically addressed, I wanted to get your permission to make that happen.
And then my last question is, what's the benefit in doing 2 payments versus just 1 and being done with it?
For the individual taxes, if, or if anybody was gonna leave, then they don't get the full
You don't
amount.
prepay them?
Because if you're hourly, you don't get that raise,
Okay.
you get it throughout the year.
Which I know the
So-
sheriff's office, it's the seasoned people that are here, they're not going anywhere as far as in our agency, and that's what, they're the ones that, have been committed.
We're talking, and as far as the stipend amounts, I mean, they're ranging between $1,500, well, $800 for one of them, for the one that's a mid, but for the other individuals, we're talking $1,500 to $1,800.
And what was your determining factor in the past between doing the single payment? I mean, was it 1,000 and below, we'll just cut 1 check, or was it just kind of?
Yeah,
This feels good?
yes, very much so.
Okay, all right.
So, and we could do them in 1 check, but when you're talking, you know, an $1,800 check, that's gonna throw them in a significantly different tax bracket, because that's, but, that's another decision, you can just let me know how to do it.
One of the big thing was is, and like I said, and I agree with it, is if we do a check in the first of the year, and you basically prepaid them in their stipend, then if they leave their job, then you're out. Now, that wasn't such a big deal 2 years ago, but right now with what's happening, especially in the sheriff's office, I don't really want to pay a stipend just for them to go to Pocatello
Right.
or
And
ISP
when I
or.
look at the names, they're the ones that are committed here, and I wouldn't have an issue with it. Because if I felt that way, I'd be like, well, let's split it.
And traditionally, what we've done, if we do 2 stipend checks, we do one like November, either mid to late November, so that they have it for Christmas, and then we do the other one like in May.
I'm
But
good
I'm
with
also in support of whatever's best in the auditor's world.
I'd like to do the 2 checks myself. I think that that's a better process.
Yep.
And then the stipend, I have no problem, as long as we're giving
that. Yeah, however we do it.
everybody getting the 3.5%.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we have not done, we've held off on those sign approval forms until we had your
That's good, Doc.
okay.
Okay.
So we'll get those done
Okay.
to you for signing, and then to the other, well, most of them are Tony's, so.
But I think this cycles out the majority of them after this, and then we'll take care of that with
I still have 4. But we're getting there, and depending on how the salary study goes,
No, we're good.
maybe we'll be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like Braden, you're up.
Yeah, Braden Clayson, Chief of Staff.
Tony, are you leaving? Stay for just 5 minutes. I was gonna talk to you first.
He's supposed to be back here at 11:30.
Or 11:30. I guess I gotta talk to
11:30
them.
or
Yeah, yeah,
11?
that's 11. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's 11:30. It's 11:30.
Oh, it's noticed for 11:30.
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. All right, yeah, I'll just talk to you then.
11:30's on my sheet here. Okay, now you're up, Braden.
Braden Clayson, Chief of Staff, coming to you guys in preparation for a quote that Cindy had made before she departed for the GIS, per the memo earlier. The GIS department is seeking a 3-year contract with Environmental Systems Research Institute, ESRI, which is crucial in running all of their online maps and parcel viewers. $55,000 a year, $165,000 total contract. ESRI software and license authentication will be done by the GIS department directly. She said that this would come out of the computer services IT budget in fiscal year 22, and it was planned for.
Is this the one that went with the state budget, the state bid, I mean? I'm
Right.
pretty sure this was, because we had the
Is that the right
conversation.
dollar
We had that, I don't remember the dollar amount, that's what I was gonna ask Braden, and I wondered if he knew.
Well, that was my question, because wasn't this the one that
Yep,
we didn't have to do?
Adam found out. Well, no, that they were able to call and say, hey, we have a state budget bid.
Right.
You should be charging us this, not that.
so I just,
And Adam did work on, he was in this email chain and.
perfect,
So
that
that's
was
it.
my
Yeah,
question,
that's
okay,
it.
So, and Christie just confirmed that it is within the budget too. So-
okay, perfect.
So I came in late on it, so I wasn't positive, but yes.
Yeah, no, that's it.
It is within the budget, so we're just seeking to get contract on that. They did extend, the deadline was tomorrow. The quote that they sent us, they extended to the 15th of October. So we're just waiting to get permission on this so that we can maintain this contract.
So, just to confirm, Adam has been involved in this. and-
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the one that he,
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, I move that, oh,
Have you had any involvement in this, Brian? Contract?
I don't, did you go through Ellen with this at all?
No, I thought Cindy had already sent it
Yeah.
to legal.
I thought this was the one that actually went back and forth in legal first, and then we figured out the
You want, I can
bid.
have it here. You
Oh,
want
with
to look at it?
Cindy? Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So you did go through it with Cindy? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the ESRI agreement for signature as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, passes unanimously. Okay. Next we have a donated transfer. This is the
That's the tower.
tower.
Yeah.
Any more comments on this
No,
one?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the donation as, of the emergency communications tower to, was it Downey Fire?
Down in fire.
Downey Fire is presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you get any feedback from the individual?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
He's made a lot of public records requests.
Has he?
4 or 5.
Okay, next we have resolution 2021-90, setting county fees for fiscal year 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve resolution 2021-90 as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next we have resolution 2191, designating county road for state reimbursement.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution 2021-91 as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. With that being said, we're at recess.